Okay, all right, I'll share my slide. Just while I'm bringing that up, a quick introduction to me. My name is Danny Stacy. I work as a recruitment evangelist for Indeed, which always gets a wry smile. It's a different title, isn't it? Effectively, I work as a consultant to decision makers, business leaders across many of the largest enterprise businesses around Europe, with a particular focus on the UK. I've been doing a lot of work, particularly this year and the final 6 months of last year with the NHS and supporting partners as well. In terms of the session today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about storytelling and looking forward to it. Please do feel free to use the chat while I'm presenting. I'm more familiar with Zoom, but I can make Teams work for me. I'm joined by Oliver Bainbridge as well. Ollie's going to be there in the chat, responding to any of your comments, your questions. If I say something you think that resonates, again, let me know in the chat. It's not only for the questions. I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts behind everything that I'm going through today. So for those of you less familiar with Indeed, I hope that's not the case, but if you aren't so familiar with our platform, we are the UK's #1 job site. So we get between 21 and 22 million individual visitors to our platform just in the UK alone every single month. So if someone's looking for a job in the UK, they're probably using Indeed, or Indeed is part of the ecosystem of tools that they're using. When I first got into the world of recruitment, I heard about the power of storytelling. You need to do it when it comes to your employer brand, your job descriptions, tell your company story. But I didn't really have an idea on where to begin. Fast forward 15 years now and finding myself in a job as a public speaker, effectively. My biggest tip to you would be thinking about your weekend language. On the weekends, we're all very great communicators. Our default is storytelling. We maybe go to a dinner party. We're allowed to do those again now, aren't we? Go on a Saturday night and we talk about how we what we've been up to in the week. But what we're not saying is, oh, I optimized my calendar last Wednesday to monetize our mission critical, best of breed, seamless solution provider focused business. We're not talking in that way. And if you are, that might be why you didn't get an invite back to the dinner party next time round. No, on weekends, our speech is conversational, it's simple, it's clear, it's interesting. We speak in examples and anecdotes and analogies, and then Monday morning hits and suddenly we're full of feature lists and industry jargon. I'm going to run this session today to help you consider how to use the art of storytelling to attract top talent. And it's no surprising that storytelling is a part of the fabric of our culture. In fact, humans have been communicating through stories for more than 20,000 years. You can change the impact people have through stories. If you think about stories in our life, maybe your story time is watching a movie on Netflix, relaxing, reading a book, story time with little ones. Stories are a big part of our life. It's how we experience and communicate. And it's we can start to see the way our stories have evolved from cave paintings to hieroglyphics to printing press. If you study this image here I've put up on the screen for you, you could probably come up with all kinds of thoughts about what the story was they were trying to tell. I can't figure out why it took 6 people to kill that poor fish. It is a giant fish, I guess. It's kind of rolling his eyes at them. While we no longer communicate on the side of caves, we're still telling stories through the use of pictures, a few words. In this case, we know they caught the fish from the Instagram picture. The mediums that we're using to tell stories have evolved. Storytelling itself, though, remains a powerful tool. In fact, I would go as far as to say storytelling can be your secret weapon for attracting top talent to your company. And here's why. Because we see through research that our stories cause our brains to produce oxytocin. I'm going to get a little biological and scientific with you. I know my audience, so I've changed my presentation up a little bit today. Oxytocin, as you may or may not know, it enhances our ability to experience empathy. So when you tell a story, you're helping people connect with and trust your company and you. Research also shows that stories cause our brains to produce cortisol, which of course increases focus, motivation, memory. In fact, stories have been found to be 22 times more memorable than facts. So using storytelling doesn't only evoke an emotional response, it's going to make your company more memorable your company's story is more important than ever, particularly the world that we're in right now for all of you on the call. The great news is you can tell your story across a variety of platforms. And today, of course, we're going to focus on job descriptions or adverts. It's low-hanging fruit when it comes to connecting with job seekers. Your job descriptions are a powerful tool to convey who you are, what you value, what you look for in a candidate. Putting aside Indeed's attractive brand, our mission-led values, which are in line with what I've always been passionate about, having spent the last 15 years or so in recruitment and HR tech, I want to help people get jobs. That's my mission. That's the mission of Indeed. Great, perfect match. I'll never forget reading the job description for the evangelist position, firstly thinking, what on earth is this job title? But thinking the role was kind of made for me. Let your job descriptions tell your story, but job descriptions, as I know, can be challenging to write. In many conversations with clients lately, I ask them, what's the one job you're working on? They're telling me about it, and I'm asking them, have you updated the job description recently? And they're kind of looking at me, well, no, we've tended to copy and paste the last few months, the last few years. If you just copying and pasting from last year, remember the world has changed a lot, particularly over the last couple of years. All kinds of things have gone on with the pandemic and Brexit. There's more change to come as well. You need to think about, what does today look like at your company, the top talent, and just beyond the company, what's it like within the organization, within the location that you're based in as well, within that specific team, right down to who these individuals could be working alongside, the client base as well. Are you telling candidates a current and compelling story? Now, Dorothy Dalton, global talent management strategist, puts it, copy paste recruitment is common practice, and it ends up making most job descriptions all look kind of the same. Sometimes that isn't because recruiters or hiring managers don't want to update job descriptions, but you end up kind of lacking time and resources to do so. The more we educate hiring teams on storytelling, the easier and more efficiently they'll be able to create up-to-date, compelling job descriptions that attract top talent. So now we know how powerful storytelling is, how you can apply this to the way we write our job descriptions that's going to evoke emotion, connect with job seekers, and avoid that copy-paste dilemma by helping you stand out from your competition. And you have a lot of competition. I don't need to tell you that. Well, a bit like a Hollywood story structure, and this is a little bit new that I've been adding to my research recently. Hollywood movies tend to follow this kind of 6-step formula for a successful film, right? They share an average day in the life of our person or our hero. Then something happens. What's the result of that something that happened? Then something else happens. What's the result of that? And then you get down to the moral of the story is. Okay. Now, we're going to go through the 6 storytelling elements that you can use when writing your job descriptions. The first, and you will get access to all of the slides I'm running through. And by the way, you can reach out for a follow-up on any of this directly for you if needed. As I said, my colleague Ollie is on the call. I'm sure he'll share his email address and details in the chat if you want to reach out afterwards and have a conversation about anything that I'm talking about today. But yeah, first up, let's start with that kind of opening hook, an attention-grabbing first paragraph. If you don't pique a candidate's interest from the beginning, there's a far higher risk they're not going to move on to read through the rest of your content. They're going to move on and look at the next job that's open to them, depending on the platform they're on. Now, you can do this by kind of opening with a strong attention-grabbing paragraph. You want to catch them as they read those first few lines. Don't lose the candidate's attention with a generic description. Make sure that your job content is compelling, interesting, and relevant. To get started, think about the type of candidate you're trying to attract and jot down a few phrases that would draw in that type of talent. What is the attention-grabbing and relevant content for someone that's going to go and work in the role that you're trying to hire? What's interesting to me, and I work in marketing, is very, very different to my sister who works in domiciliary healthcare. What we find attention-grabbing differs greatly. So think about the talent personas that you're trying to hire. What is going to drive or interest them? Let's look at an example of a strong job description from Apple. Their introduction to the role hooks you in with phrases like help architect our future. That makes me think, okay, I'm going to be part of building something, be a leader of leaders. Great. I want to inspire people. Get ready for your perfect job. I know it's a different industry, but it's great storytelling. And this is the opening paragraph to one of their ads. And I think it's incredibly impressive. Closing with prepare to innovate, create, inspire. It just leaves you wanting to learn more about this role. Just with those 3 sentences, you get the job seeker wanting to read further, wanting to have a screening conversation with a recruiter. You want to make a personal connection. Today's candidates want to connect to a company whose mission and vision resonates with their values and beliefs. Think about your company, your organization, your department story, and why you feel personally connected to it. There's a reason that you work in the role that you work. Put it into practice. Create a list of words that you would use to tell that story. Then pull up one of your own job descriptions. Do the words you just wrote down actually align with the posting that you're putting out there to candidates? Are the best parts of your company's story highlighted? Think about the talent personas, as I said before, that you're trying to hire, the different types of people that tend to do the role you're hiring for. Speak to those people already in your organization. What drives them? What excites them? Are you talking about flexible working if you're looking to hire younger workers or workers with caring responsibilities? Are you talking about apprenticeships and how you're going to develop someone's career again when you're hiring younger workers? Don't ever make assumptions either. Do speak to these people. For example, here at Indeed, it's easy to feel a personal connection to our mission. It's to help people get jobs. It's why I joined. And I've been helping people to get jobs in various ways for quite a while now. Prior to that, I worked at LinkedIn for quite a long time, a similar-ish mission there. I'm intrinsically connected to our mission and values. Let's look at another example now. Let's use Monzo. We're building the best bank in the world, a bank you'd be proud to use. This approach stands out from the more impersonal job descriptions we typically see. The third element out of 6 is to consider introducing an element of conflict, adversity, or struggle, much like those Hollywood movies. One way to introduce conflict in your job description is to clarify the problem that your company or that role is trying to solve. Reflect on your mission statement, your core values. What problem is it that this person's going to be solving? It's going to be a problem that's really going to resonate with a lot of people in the world we're in right now, right? So, what adversity do you help others overcome? It creates this dramatic tension that makes the job seeker want to keep reading to find out the resolution. For the world you're all in, this part should come easier to you than it might be some of my other clients, than it might do to Monzo, for example. Look at an example. I've got one here coming up from Habito. Their mission statement creates dramatic tension by introducing conflict. In this case, it's how the mortgaging process is disempowering, confusing, and ultimately broken. You might have seen some of their ads on TV as well, that hell of mortgages piece. And they put it here, help us set free people from the hell of mortgages. Mortgages are broken. Their resolution is to fix mortgages, rebuild home financing from the ground up. This approach gets job seekers investing their mission, making it more likely that qualified candidates are going to apply. Now, next, you want to include interesting characters, again, like a Hollywood story. What do I mean by interesting characters? Well, your company and in turn the department or location that you're hiring for has a personality. It's got character. What is that character? Is it quirky? Is it a very serious place this person's going to be working in? Is it more scientific? Is it more clinical? You're going to want to offer job seekers a personality they can connect with instead of a list of benefits and statistics. Define the voice and personality that you use to talk about your employer brand. Does this sound like someone your ideal candidate would want to hang out with? It not only provides a unique point of view, it also increases the likelihood of compatibility between the candidate and your company. That's not just to hire people, that's to have a better retention of these individuals as well. They're going to stay longer if they've got a willingness to accept your mission and want to be a part of that mission. It's especially important for those that you're looking to hire from outside of the industry as well. I know it's a tough time right now, so think about the world of hospitality, retail. They've not had an easy time of it either. It's a great time for you to offer them something new that might actually be better aligned to their values than that bar work or restaurant work they've been doing. I really love this example here from Sweaty Betty, great brand. They lead their job description with more about who they are. You know, we're on a mission to empower women through fitness and beyond. We want to hear from forward thinkers who aren't afraid to challenge the norm. Now, I know what type of people I'll be working with from this ad. And now that we have those memorable characters, what do we want to do? Well, we want to set the scene. The setting that you create is important. You know, in a recent series of interviews conducted by Indeed about the hiring process, a job seeker said, there are some companies that instantly stand out to me as places where I'd love to work. You can almost feel what it's like to work there just by reading the job description. And when you talk about your company, describe what life is like there. Think about the day to day. Give job seekers a sense of your organization style and culture. Even if you yourself are working virtually right now, set the scene of the company culture in a typical day in the life for that individual. It's going to help candidates feel like they're there. We think about setting the scene in our other marketing platforms like video, social media, but you can carry those elements into your job description too. Our last element to storytelling is don't forget the fundamentals. No matter how imaginative your story is, if it doesn't follow proper storytelling principles like grammar and structure, it's going to fall flat. The same goes to your job descriptions. So, you know, what are the basics? Well, you've got to target and be precise. Think like a job seeker by using keywords and phrases that people will search for. Remember how Indeed works. People ask, what do you want to do and where do you want to do it? Indeed uses its algorithm to put the right jobs in front of the job seeker based on what they're searching for, what they've clicked on, what's on their CV. So your job title needs to be pretty close to what people actually search for, as does all of the keywords within the body of the ad as well. You know, a job title like healthcare assistant is going to be a lot better than HCA Hopkins ward or whatever a name of a ward they might be in, you know, something like that, or the name of a care home specifically. Call the job what people are actually searching for. Use the keywords that they're searching for as well. In terms of structure, don't over format your job description or feel obligated to fill white space. Your job description doesn't need to be a lengthy bullet list of qualifications, requirements. It's just going to lose candidates' attention. In fact, it's proven that a long list of nice to haves rather than need to haves is going to turn off candidates from your less represented demographics. Lastly, audit and proofread your job descriptions. Remember, most of your candidates are going to be reading your job ad on their mobile device. On Indeed, traffic in general is around 72% via mobile. When we start thinking about healthcare assistants, carers, that percentage is even higher. Not everyone is going to have a desktop device at home. A lot of people will do their job search on their break at work as well, on their phone. Make sure you've optimized for mobile. I usually recommend no longer than about 2,000 characters with your job ads. That's about 3 full swipes of a mobile phone. Okay. You want to continuously monitor your content to ensure it's up to date and free of spelling and grammatical errors. If you post the job on your desktop device, always make sure you go back on a mobile phone and check how the ad actually looks. That's really important. Sometimes the formatting won't necessarily have been correct. On it, and I'm talking about any platform, not just Indeed, by the way. All of this advice is for all platforms. Now, before I recap those 6 storytelling elements, let's look at an example from Spotify, another one of my clients that puts 6 elements that I've mentioned into practice. Now, I know it's a different industry. I've called this out a few times. But there's a lot to be learned, especially from tech. Tech organizations do this stuff very well. They have to because competition is so fierce. Here at Indeed, when we're posting an ad, we're up against the Googles, the Facebooks, the LinkedIns of the world. So, you know, we have to write very strong content, as do the likes of Spotify as well. Now, Spotify instantly grabs your attention and gives you insight to the organization's personality. I'm going to read this out because I like it so much. We're looking for thoughtful, well-rounded front-end engineers to join our team. If you're the right one for us, you love the web, you take great pride in your work, you think of coding as more than just a job, and have a few great projects to show off. You can take a concept, transform it into an awesome web-based experience with your own technical UI UX expertise. Now, it doesn't only read well, but let's dive into a little bit here and look at what we've just read. Well, it includes really specific keywords and phrases that speak to the company's culture. Thoughtful, well-rounded, love the web, take pride in your work. That's very emotive and gets someone excited. Think about what we talked about at the start with the cortisol flowing now. However, it also includes keywords that perform very well in search results. Front-end engineer, web, coding, UI, UX experience. These are the kind of things people are searching in the what box of Indeed. It's the kind of wording that's on someone's CV. So when someone runs a search, Indeed looks at every word that's on their CV when they're doing it. We look at what they've clicked on before. We look at the wording within the ads they've clicked on before. So make sure you're using the right keywords. And if you're not sure what the right keywords are, again, just reach out to us at Indeed. We can walk you through this stuff. Going to go just over those 6 storytelling elements again then. So firstly, remember, start with an opening hook, catch their attention, get them to want to read on to see the whole thing. Next, make a personal connection. Who are they going to be joining? Who are they going to be working with? The clients they're going to be supporting. Thirdly, introduce conflict. What's the great cause that they're going to be helping the world with? Fourth, include interesting characters. Who is your organization? What's your personality? Describe it. Fifth, create a great setting. Allow them to visualize where they're going to actually work, especially now if most interviews might be done remotely, for example. Top talent might even be starting remotely. They might not be going straight into the in-person work. Depends on the role. Help tell a story for them to visualize what it's like to work there. Might even start remotely, give them a chance to visualize it from the interview as well. And lastly, don't forget those fundamentals that I went through earlier. Always get someone to read through your ad afterwards as well. It's such a common thing to see little grammatical spelling errors creep into ads, and it puts people off. Right, I spent some time talking about my story, where my history and how I got into my role, allowed you to understand the power of storytelling. After this session, I want you to take some time to figure out what your story is, your organization story, the story behind the role you're hiring for. Make your company, your role more relevant and appealing to job seekers. That is all from me. I really hope you enjoyed that session today on stories that stick, using the art of narrative and attracting top talent. As I said before, you can reach out to Ollie, who's your account manager, and me as well, if you need any kind of support on any of the elements I've touched on. If you've got any further questions, you can find me on LinkedIn as well if you prefer. I've put my email address on the screen. Ollie, I'm assuming you're putting in, I can't see the chat while I'm presenting, but I'm assuming your details are in there. Thank you again, everyone, for your time. I'll stop sharing now. I just saw the emoji hand clap, Ollie. Thank you so much. And thank you for the comments in the chat as well.
I think that's a stunned silence, Danny.
I was wondering who am I handing over to close, but hey, if we've got a little bit of time, we're not at the half past mark yet. Maybe there's some questions in the chat. I'd be happy to take any questions you might have. I've got a hand up from Renan. And feel free to unmute and come on camera with your question if you prefer. Nice to see your face.
I can't wait to ask you, Danny. Well, first of all, I knew that would be a brilliant masterclass, and it was brilliant. I'm really interested to ask, you were talking about the words that candidates look for, and you gave us an example of someone who's looking at a role in frontline engineering. Are you able to tell us what would be the top 3 words that frontline carers look for? Are we missing something obvious in our adverts, please? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I don't want to sit on the fence and say use your common sense, because actually we've got tools that can help you work this stuff out. Ollie has got, I see him looking at something now. I wonder if he's going to bring up our hiring insights tool that enables us to look at the top 10 keywords that job seekers search for that led to a click on a healthcare assistant role, for example, or a care assistant role, or personal care, depending on what title you're using. I'm padding while Ollie is looking at that for you, but I'll tell you now what has been really interesting over the last few years. And I talk about this from a personal experience with both my sister being in domiciliary healthcare, my mum being a senior carer, being one of the people that looks after the meds for people with dementia and working with the elderly. I tell you now, even what they call themselves is different. and they often do, you know, similar roles. My sister worked within the NHS in a hospital before, and she was a HCA. She didn't call herself a healthcare assistant, she called herself a HCA, and that's actually what she searched for. But I think that term is being searched for far less now, as we start to see job titles like support worker being far more common. I think a few years ago it wasn't a common term. Now we see support worker far outweighing the amount of searches being done for healthcare assistant. Ollie, in that padding time, did you manage to find some of those top keywords? Are you putting them in the chat, or do you want to unmute?
Well, I was going to say I'm going to drop them in the chat, but if and obviously happy to do this on a one-to-one basis for your specific roles. But if I'm just looking very generically at social care workers across the region, then the top 3 search terms that job seekers are clicking on at the moment are social worker, qualified social worker, and newly qualified social workers. So if you've got that exact phrasing within your job title, within your job description, that is what candidates are actively searching for at the moment and clicking on. So if you're recruiting for social workers, as it would be in this case, those are the essential kind of keywords that need to be in your job title, in your job description, to be attracting candidates to these roles.
I think many of the people on the event today may not be looking for qualified social workers. I'm assuming that they may be looking for people that are qualified, but not necessarily in social work. But thanks for that, and I'll leave it to others to have any questions. Thank you both.
No, of course, Benny. And let's say if there's anyone who has a specific role they're working on that they want some guidance with, I say feel free to drop me an email, get in touch, and I'll run through this on kind of a bit more of a personal one-to-one basis and see actually how we can help you guys.
Exactly. And just on what Ollie mentioned there, although the weighting behind, I don't want to get too technical with the algorithm right now, although the weighting is more heavy behind the job title than the wording within the ad. So when job seeker searches X, we want to show them X. We're going to blend in some XY. There might be some Y in there if we know that job seekers who search for X tend to go on to click on Y. I hope that kind of makes sense. But it is the wording within the ad as well. So if your hands are tied with a particular job title, but you work with us as a follow-up and we tell you, well, actually, these keywords are being searched for over here that aren't in your title, that's fine. Just blend them into the body of the ad. Simple words that I'm sure are in your ads, words like care, like support, the word personal, because we know some people might have searched personal. Those words, just include them in the body of the ad. You don't have to reiterate job titles. You could split the 2 words out, like social should also be in the body of the ad. The other thing I'll just add on that is some vendors will tell you, oh, well, you need to have the job title repeated in the ad 5 times, 3 times. I've heard all kinds of guidance in the past. No, with Indeed, you only need to have it in there the once, and that will be enough for the algorithm to work its magic. Repeating keywords doesn't engage your job any more than any others. I'm just looking down the chat if any other comments are coming in at the minute. Yeah, no problems.
Lucy has a question, I think.
I see Lucy is typing. Lucy, feel free to unmute if you prefer, if it's a longer question.
Muted. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
I just wanted to ask, we're looking to attract people from outside the sector. So are there any words we could think about that would attract people who are looking for a job but may not have thought about social care, but may be great?
It's such a good point. And we need to find a balance between, I'll give you an example of something you shouldn't do. And I'll do something out of the industry, so definitely know none of you will do it. But as an example, what we might have seen some staffing agencies looking for warehouse staff do is include the word Amazon in the body of their ad, because they know people will just search Amazon. Then they see their jobs rather than the Amazon jobs, and now they're applying. And then probably that staffing agency sells that candidate back to Amazon anyway. Don't do that, because the search quality team at Indeed will reach out and say, well, you're mentioning someone else's brand. We don't want to see that. That's not fair. It doesn't put the job seeker first. However, you can be smart. You could include words like retail and hospitality in the body of your ad and almost make it clear that you welcome job seekers from those industries into these roles. Now, it's going to depend on the level of qualification that you're going to require for the role, but some of the less skilled or less qualified requirements that you have, do go and use terms like that. Again, work with us as a follow-up. We have this wonderful tool called Hiring Insights that Ollie just used to very quickly bring up that terminology. This additional kind of consultative support doesn't cost you, by the way. Don't be worried that having a follow-up call costs any money. And what we'll do is we'll run through what people are actually searching for in other industries as well, and give you an idea of how you can capture them when you're posting your jobs too. I hope that answers the question, Lucy. Yeah, love that. So Lucy just put in the chat, so you could say bring your skills from hospitality and retail. Yeah, exactly that. And you could go beyond that and think, well, what retailers tending to search for? Well, we know customer service is a very common term for someone to search that goes on to be in a retail hospitality role. Could you have the word customer and the word service? It doesn't have to be together. So you can have the word customer in there somewhere. We support customers and clients, something like that. And then the word service in there as well. We you know, client service users. You've covered both those keywords. Now your ad is more likely to be seen by someone searching customer service. Any other questions or comments at all? And it looks like we're recording, so if you feel like there's others in your organisation that could benefit from seeing this, do feel free to share with others, or you can go back and see the content that I shared earlier with some of those suggestions and ideas for your storytelling. But if there's no other questions or comments, then Rennie, I think it's back to you.
Well, if it is, then I'm just going to say again, that was a true masterclass. I knew it would be brilliant, and it was. I'm going to really enjoy watching the film again, because I think there's so much in your presentation. It's going to be worth reflecting over. So thank you to everybody again for your time. Thank you so much for coming. Tomorrow, Ollie, I believe it's your good self. Tomorrow again we have our final event, 11 till 11:30. Be there or be square. More good advice, more information, and thank you again everyone, and hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you all.
Thanks. Bye now.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.